Hey guys, welcome. It is, I guess we should say the day before officially Christmas. So we do these lives every single week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And I thought, why not we continue the tradition today? Most of the people are gone from the office. I know, a couple people, even Rahul is hanging out back over there, and Jennifer and Matthew, and they're, uh, I guess, enjoying some libacious beverages, right? I can't drink, so I should say can't. I'm a one drink person, one glass of wine, I'm toast. But we thought I would do this, and generally on Fridays we try to do a story as it relates to real estate, a story that relates to since it's and I wanted to kind of relate. Right now, I'm 48 years old, and I wanted to kind of go back and look at um, this journey of real estate because next week we're going to do prepping for 2024. What are the plans? What has worked? What worked in mastery? What worked for me last year? What were some of the failures that I had last year that I'm not proud of, that I would like to kind of tweak going into the next year? And then what is 2024 to come, not only in terms of real estate, in terms of personal growth, in terms of kind of where you're going, because at the end of the day, most of us share the same journey, which is we want to do well in terms of maybe in some way financially, we want to do better in terms of health wise, in terms of family and your spirituality or your relationship with God, not God, whatever your belief system is. Generally people have four areas, right? And obviously your health, your family, some of those things being more important than not. Money is a piece of it because it just makes things happen. But this is a time of the year, generally from Thanksgiving to New Year's. I always used to be not very happy. And the reason I used to be not very happy, and I can recall this from the time I was maybe 17 years old, till I can certainly say very recently or in the last few years. And the reason I used to always feel this big kind of sense of unhappiness, or more than unhappiness, it was more that anxiety would be the right word to use for that. And for a lot of people, for most people, it's a time of celebration. It's a time of family. It's a time of getting together. It's time of making memories. Yet for some reason, for me, it was always a time of a high amount of anxiety. And I think I used to always feel a high amount of anxiety because I was like, oh my God, the year to reset. And we're going in the fall season, we're going to winter season. People buy gifts for their family, people do all of those types of things. And for me, it was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to start over. Right. And I mentioned this, I say this at the 3 day, a lot of times at the RIA meetings, I've said this, that from 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, I was dead broke like most people are. And I was trying to get into real estate sales wise, wasn't selling very much, and it was not pleasant. And at the time, it was like, how could I make some money? And when I did make a little bit of money, it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do next year? What am I going to do next year? And that anxiety, that fear, that whatever you want to call it, used to eat me alive, right? Because I was so scared all the time. And the more motivated, the more scared, more whatever I would get, the less sleep I could get. And talk to any entrepreneur, and most of them will tell you this exact same thing, that when you see the person's success, it's too late. If you see it through social media, there's a lot of BS involved in it, right? But if I look at myself, even when as a real estate agent, I was maybe doing 200, 300,000, 4,000 in commissions earned. I was not a happy camper. And I was not happy, not because I didn't feel that, okay, I'm making some money. It's just that I was always scared. How am I going to do it? Where's the next commission check? What's going to happen next year? What if the economy collapses? What if something happens? And it took a long, long, long time for me to have enough asset base where at least today I feel that, not that I want everything to collapse, not that I don't care, but at least today, one thing I don't feel afraid of is like, oh my God, how am I going to pay my health insurance? Oh my God, how am I going to do XYZ things? Probably having money, right? A lot of people are, Andrew, that's money's not that important. And let me tell you, the only person that can say money is not that important is a person who has always had money, right? Or your parents have always had money and you've had access to it. If you have been broke a few days in your life or a few years in your life, believe me, money is important, right? And next to oxygen and next to food, money is that important. People are like, well, no, it's about health, it's about families. It is. But guess what? If you have poor health, having a lot of money, you can get the best health care, right? If you don't have, if you're nuts, right? Having a lot of money, you can get the best help for your nutty brain, right? That's what money does. Anything that can be bought with money, money makes it easier, right? That's all that money does, is that anything that can be bought with money, money makes it easier. Now, if you're just a deviant type of person, if you're just somebody who's just a horrible person, all money is going to do is it's going to basically bring out more of that crazy behavior. If you're a good person, it's going to give you more access to resources, and you're probably going to help more people. You're going to probably change more lives. And today, as I'm thinking about, well, what do I talk about, right? It's before Christmas. Everybody's kind of winding down. And I thought I would kind of bring up some of these things just looking back. Because if one thing today I feel grateful about, and there's a lot of moments throughout the year where I get all agitated about things that are really, really, really not that important. And looking back at it, I'm like, why was I so pissed off? But I think if these things happen to me, it happens to a lot of people. But I was telling Jennifer that this is something I have not brought up. Georgia. I lived in Atlanta before I moved to Chicago. And I will never forget this Christmas Day. And I wanted to bring it up, even though it's not a pleasant story, but I wanted to bring it up because we have all had moments in our life that maybe we're not proud of. Maybe if I look back at it, I'm like, oh my God, but it was one of those things. And just because Christmas is around the corner, I wanted to kind of bring it up. And I want to bring up two incidences that one of them I'm not proud of. One of them probably was a very fun thing for me to be able to do. And that was, I was on, so there's a road, Atlanta, which kind of goes straight downtown, coming in from the Marietta side. I think it's I-75 that comes in. I forget the road, but anyway, it's one of those perimeter roads, if I remember correctly, that goes and then it shoots straight through town. And I remember being on that highway and getting in the what they call HOV lane. You need at least two occupants in the vehicle. And at the time, I used to have this Jaguar. And I have very unpleasant memories with Jaguar. So even if I get it for free, I would sell it the next day. I have unpleasant memories with that car. And I'll never forget this. This is about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. It's clearly winter. And I get in the HOV lane and I see this cop pull up behind me and he stops me, pulls me over. I pull over and it's one of those exits over there. And he's taking an awful lot of time, right? He gets out of his car and he goes, sir, hands behind your back and get out of the car. And I'm like, what the hell did I do? Right? Now, mind you, in my life, I had never been arrested. I had never done anything in my life that got me to that point. But I have a big mouth and a small body, so I'm not going to argue with the 6'4" cop that I remember, and I'm like, well, I don't know what I did. But anyways, and so he's like, well, you have some parking tickets that you did not pay in college. So I went to college in West Virginia and I did not pay some parking tickets and they had apparently suspended my license in West Virginia. And I was like, oh, I got away with it. And not knowing that I did not get away with it. And apparently, obviously, that had suspended my Georgia license. And I say that to say this. So I remember sitting in the back of his squad car. Now I'm obviously extremely ashamed of myself for what happened, because it was not a pleasant, your butt being transported to Fulton County, whatever the thing is, where, they go and they basically take your fingerprints, and it's a very demeaning feeling, especially if you've never experienced that type of thing. Because why? I didn't pay parking tickets. And in that moment, I still remember this, right? Being there, and I guess I didn't know how the whole thing worked. I had no idea. I'd never experienced this sort of a thing. So I figured that I could, I guess, pay whatever, what do you call it, bond, and get out. But I'm like, it's Christmas Day. It's literally Christmas Day. I'm like, I have no idea if I can get out or not. And do I have to stay overnight in whatever the processing area jail, whatever they call that thing in Fulton County? And you're in this little room, bunch of people, some people sleeping on the floor, some people, I mean, this was a very, and if I told you that I was not scared, I was, because I'd never experienced this sort of a situation, encountered this sort of situation in my life, right? And people are getting arrested for obviously a lot more crazier things than me for parking tickets that I did not pay in college. And hence my license was suspended. I'm driving on a suspended license and I didn't know anything about it. And while on my kind of way to this, whatever that holding facility is, I tell the cop, I'm like, listen, man, I mean, I'm really thankful that you actually stopped me. And I mean, I'm not thankful I'm back of your cruiser, but if I had crashed into somebody, something bad had happened, I probably would imagine I'd be in much bigger trouble with the suspended license. And now you crashed into somebody, caused a major accident, something happened. So, I am appreciative of you. And he's, I've never had anybody sit in the back of a cruiser and tell me how appreciative they were. I'm like, well, I don't like the situation. It's unpleasant. But guess what? It's better than what could have been, right? It's better than I could have been. Now, long story short, maybe it took 50 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. I was able to, I didn't have any cash on me, but I had a card. And then a friend of mine came pick me up. Later, I go to court. I paid whatever the fines were, and everything got dismissed. I mean, everything got taken care of, so it wasn't an issue. But it was one of those times in my life which I, you don't like to bring up because today, the Christmas, kind of, it made me think about it because it's interesting how sometimes things happen in life, right? Mind you, at the time, I was a different place in my life. Clearly, I didn't have the resources that I have. I was obviously not as I'm today. Maybe at the time I was 21, 2 years old. A funny incident happened, which is about a year ago. I'm in the Rolls, and we're on Devon, about 11 o'clock. Me, Miss Rose, and Fateh in the car. And a cop on Devon stops us. And so, I mean, anytime a cop stops you, you're like, I wonder what the heck I was doing. And you're in Devon, so it's not like I could be speeding. It's not like we were, I ran a stop sign, or didn't seem like that. So he comes up. He's like, sir, I'm really sorry, but your license plate is not coming up to this car. So I'm like, well, it's probably, I'm like, I wonder what's wrong. I didn't think, and he's like, no, there's something wrong. So he's like, driver's license, blah, 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 registration, whatever. So I gave him all of that stuff. I guess he checked that out. Everything seemed okay. But you don't know when a cop stops you. You have no idea. He's like, well, it doesn't show up to this car. It just seems like this license plate is on a wrong car, right? I'm like, oh, I think maybe, does it show up Ferrari, right? On a Gran Turismo. He's like, yeah, it does. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I think this was a license plate on my other car, and it got moved to this particular car. And it's funny because he must have apologized like 50 times. I'm like, no, man, it's not your fault. You're doing your job. I guess you ran my tags. License plate, it didn't come up to the car. You're like, what is it? But the cop must have apologized at least 15 or 20 times. I'm so sorry. I don't want to tow the vehicle. But you guys are driving in a car that is like, and he's like, I don't even want to tow this car because it's going to be hard to find a towing company. And finally, it got kind of so embarrassing because Fateh was sitting next to me and he goes, no, officer, you've been great. You've been very, very cordial. You've been wonderful to us. So we realized that's our mistake. So I call Rolls-Royce. This is 1 o'clock at night. And I'm like, here, talk to these people, right? And they acknowledge that it's their mistake. It's not mine. I don't know. When you buy a car, you don't check that. They just transfer the license plates. And cop was just a gem of a guy. He let us go. He's like, sir, please make sure you get it fixed. I got it fixed the next day, which is obviously I don't want to have a problem in a stupid Rolls Royce driving around with tags that are from a different car. And mind you, apparently I'd been driving around like this for the last 3 years, right? I never got stopped, never even realized that there was something wrong. And so I just relate that story because I remember at the time when I really didn't have a lot of money, how I reacted to that situation versus this situation, my reaction to it was much more different. But I wanted to bring this up because this was a time of year that for me used to be extremely stressful because I'd see everybody else happy and I used to be miserable. And I used to be miserable for the sheer fact that I knew next year going into, now we're going into 2024, but be it, was it 2001, 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? I always used to be miserable because I was so scared of what is there to come in the next year. Meaning, if I worked this hard this year, can I repeat this in the next year? And I guess this is a question for you. For anybody who's watching, this is a question for you. That we're supposed to be at a time where we're supposed to be grateful, be with our families, be with your loved ones. If you have kids, hopefully you're with them, you're with your grandkids. But what psychologically, right, who we are and who we pretend to be around others is very different than who we are when we look at ourselves in the mirror in the morning, right? And I feel that nowadays, that in a lot of ways, I have been able to I guess, be in a much better place financially, where the basics of life today, I am fortunate that I don't have to worry about. But yet, there are other places still where I feel that I am not where I'm supposed to be. Certainly, when it comes to in terms of health, I think I should be in a better condition. And I'm not saying I should be thinner, fatter, whatever, that sort of thing. But in terms of amount of exercise, in terms of a lot of things, maybe in terms of relationship, maybe in terms of spirituality. So I just wanted to bring up because it made me think about kind of going back to almost, I don't even remember when this is. This is maybe 99 or 2000 when this incident happened when I was arrested. And but it's certainly, whenever I think about it, I think about what was going through in my mind. And for everybody that celebrates Christmas, I want to, say Merry Christmas to you. For everybody that doesn't, a Happy Holidays still. I know for all our Jewish friends, we just got done with Happy Hanukkah. So for Lori, Happy Hanukkah. And from our family here at Andrew Holmes Events at National, National RE Funding, National RE Invest. I just want to wish everybody number one, a safe, happy Christmas. Next week, we will be back with you, specifically with planning for 2024. Now, that one is going to be a more business type of a conversation. Today, it was just meant to be something a little bit lighthearted, a little bit kind of reminiscing back about some of the things that happen and some of the memories that may not be so pleasant associated with holidays. But I'll just leave you with this. Like, probably, I remember why people go downtown and people go shopping, people are able to go to expensive stores, right? That was always my dream, that one day I'll be able to go do that. And a couple of years ago, it was funny because I asked my sister happens to live here in Willowbrook, so right down the street. And we said, we should go downtown and we should try like what people who have money they're able to do, because today we're able to afford those types of things. And I'll never forget, we went downtown, we stayed at the Ritz downtown, and we're like, okay, all day we're going to go shopping and we'll shop to our heart's content, right? And or shop till we drop. And it was the funniest thing because we were walking around downtown on the Michigan Mile, and for the first time, and I'm like, I told my sister, I'm like, what do you want to buy, right? Because she's like, well, why did we come down here? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I just want to walk around. It's kind of fun. It's kind of Christmassy. It's something that I never thought that I could be able to really afford all of these things because all these stores seem so expensive. And in that moment, I realized one very interesting thing because so we were at, and I was like, what am I going to buy? Right? It's not like I'm not as much as I'm fascinated with airplanes and cars. It's a guy sort of a thing to do. There was really nothing in those stores that fascinated me. And so we go to Louis Vuitton. And for me, this was a big deal to be able to buy a nice expensive purse. I don't know what it was, $4 or $5 for my sister, right? And I know my sister would never spend that kind of money. My sister is a lot tighter with money than even I am. But it was, and I didn't have to think about it. And the biggest thing was that what was important was not me buying something for me. Could I have bought shoes there? Could I have bought different stuff over there? But what I realized was that all the things that I had made was such a big deal. But yet, more than the purse that I bought for my sister, that was just, I was like, okay, I can do it. My sister will never go splurge like that, so I can do it. Was with my little niece and nephew, was to go into the Disney store downtown. I was like, you guys can get whatever you want. How much money can we spend? I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter. Now, I'm supposed to be the uncle, so it's okay for me to have that attitude. It's not okay for the mother, which is my sister, to have that attitude. She's like, no, 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 you have this budget, to be able to go buy toys. And and I'm reminded of that because for me, after coming from India, my parents were there, obviously. A lot of times I hadn't really had the chance to be able to spend time, which a lot of people take for granted, with family. And that was kind of the first Christmas where we actually made time to go do that and to be able to spend that. And yet today, I'm reminded of it because 3 years ago, my parents passed away. And yet now I realize that some of the things that I had always taken their health for granted, some of the things that I had already taken for granted, in fact, they took the whole thing for granted also. And we just never thought that quick, right? Literally, my dad passed away in January, and February 7th, my mom passed away, just like that, within 31 days of each other. And all my message today is that was a mistake I made, that I didn't even realize, because I've always had parents that had had good health, that everything had been great on that side of it, and that I took that for granted. And in a kind of flash of an eye, things were no longer the same. And today, there was not a lot of things that my parents and I agreed on, because I had a different path than they did in terms of career, in terms of where I wanted to go. But I always used to enjoy whenever they would come to Chicago and my dad would have a laundry list. Okay, today, Monday, we're going to go to steakhouse. Tuesday, we're going to go get sushi. Thursday, we're going to, Wednesday, we're going to go get pizza, right? And that was one thing we always used to bond over, was good, great food that we would go. So even today, anytime that I drive the Rolls Royce, I always think about my dad sitting in the back with a big grin on his face, because in that one way, I made him very proud. And then when one time I got a chance to take them down to the, I think it was, I don't know, this was Drake Intercontinental, one of those bigger hotels, right? And all of us as a family went for dinner, because those moments that at the time I didn't realize how small those times really are, where we take the time away from all our worries, from all the things that we have going on, and spend those times. Because today I realize that those moments, those times were so few. And for you guys that have kids, that have family, that you have learned to cherish those, I congratulate you, because clearly, and I realize that how important that is. So having said that, happy holidays, have a safe weekend, have a safe Monday, your family, and we will talk to you next week. That is for the new year. Thanks a bunch, guys.